So we'll look at the summary and then we'll come back to those 4 shlokas in chapter 10, which is the Chatushloke. So what we discussed that at the end of chapter 9, Krishna talks about the glories of devotional service. And that even if we perform devotional service simply as a matter of duty, not necessarily out of love for Krishna, even then we will benefit. And Krishna talks about how devotional service is easy, how if for whatever reason we give it up or we can't continue or we fall down. Falling down means we're not talking about a physical fall down. We're just talking about a degradation in our consciousness. Even if we're not able to practice bhakti, but we stay in touch with devotees, even that is very beneficial. And Krishna also says in chapter 9, the very last shloka, always think of me, bow down to me, become my devotee, worship me. So practically how that can be done is going to be elucidated by Lord Krishna in chapter 10. And chapter 10 begins again with Krishna saying that hearing is again important in the process. And we discussed how the more that we hear, the more we become fixed up in the process of devotional service. And in chapter 8, Krishna talked about to understand him that one needs to be anusuyave and a little bit of shraddha. Anusuyave means we should not have envy in our hearts towards Krishna. At the same time, we have to have a little bit of faith. But here in chapter 10, Krishna says, even for you to have that little bit of faith, that itself is a gift from Krishna to you. That you need his blessings, you need his causeless mercy to be able to even chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Because Lord Krishna says, if one wants to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one needs his mercy, his causeless mercy. For those who have a taste for chanting, you can assume that you have received the Lord's mercy and how fortunate you should feel because of that. And here in chapter 10, Krishna talks about how you can see him everywhere and how a devotee sees him everywhere and in everything. You know, in the earlier chapters, Krishna has talked about how his devotees do not see any dualities. They don't distinguish between human being and a jivatma or a moving living entity and a non-moving living entity. So for them, for a pure devotee, everything belongs to Krishna and they see Krishna's energy pervading everything. So Krishna here is going to give additional examples by which Arjuna can actually think about him. You know, there is a very nice pastime of Srila Prabhupada of how a pure devotee is always thinking of Krishna. I think this happened in Laguna Beach in California. Prabhupada and his disciples were walking on the beach and I think this is where he talks about the surfers, these people who, there's a sport called surfing where they ride on a corkboard, if I'm not mistaken. And Prabhupada had not seen this before, and he asked, what are they doing? And the devotee said, they are surfers, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, surfers, they are sufferers. And the devotees thought he had misunderstood, and they told Prabhupada again, no, Prabhupada, they are called surfers. And Prabhupada, no, I think they are sufferers. And Prabhupada explained how if they are so attached to one particular activity that they are willing to spend so many hours in the water because of their love for that particular recreation. Prabhupada says that they have to be born as fish because it's only natural for a fish to spend time in water. It's not natural for a human being to spend that much time in water. Because of their deep love for the water, they will take on a body that allows them to stay naturally in the water much longer than what they are doing on the surfboard. So hence Prabhupada was calling them sufferers, not surfers. So at that same time, they were walking, and Prabhupada suddenly asks, do you hear that? And his disciples get a little bit confused. Hear what, Srila Prabhupada? So he walks for a little bit, and then again Prabhupada asks, do you hear that? And finally, his disciples understand that Prabhupada is referencing to the sound of the waves. The waves make a particular sound. And so Prabhupada says, that is the sound of Radharani's heart as she's going to meet Krishna. That her heart is rhythmically beating that way. So a pure devotee always sees everything in relation to Krishna. So that should not be surprising at all. In chapter 7 also, Krishna says you can see him in everything. There he talks about the taste of water, the light of the sun, the light of the moon, the sound in the ether. I am the sound and silence. And Krishna says those who are his devotees and they have this knowledge about Krishna, it's easy for them to see Krishna everywhere and in everything. But one who does not have this knowledge about Krishna, they are not able to see Krishna anywhere or in anything. And the perfect example of both these, devotee and a non-devotee, is the relationship between a very famous or infamous father from the Satya Yuga and his son. The father is a demon, the son is a devotee. This is Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad. Prahlad sees the Lord in everything. Hiranyakashipu sees only material things, and even in God he sees material things. His objective was to usurp Vishnu's position. That was his objective. That is why he practiced intense, severe austerity. Until he was nothing but bones, and his austerities were so severe that there was fire and smoke emitting from his forehead and his head. That caused the Devatas tremendous amount of concern, fear, strife, because the power of Hiranyakashipu's tapas was so strong that it was disturbing the other planetary systems. That's how powerful his tapas was. So in the famous scene where Hiranyakashipu again chastises his son Prahlad and asks him, "What have you learnt in school?" And Prahlad again insists that one should only worship Lord Narayana and completely surrender to him. This enrages Hiranyakashipu because he thought, okay, I've given you multiple chances to tell me that your duty is to worship me, that I am God. And in that process, he asks Prahlad, "Where is your God?" And Prahlad says, "He's everywhere." The same potency that is in me, Prahlad says, is also in you. So God is in you and God is in me. And Hiranyakashipu says, "Oh, so your God is everywhere, is it?" And he sarcastically asks his son, "Is he in this pillar?" And Prahlad very confidently says, "Yes, he's in that pillar." Now, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that whatever his devotees say is true. And who makes it come true? The Lord himself. So the minute Prahlad said, "Yes, the Lord is in that pillar," then it became God's duty to make sure that his pure devotees' words are upheld. So the minute Prahlad says, "Yes, the Lord is in that pillar," the Lord already appeared in that pillar, waiting for Hiranyakashipu to crack it open. So when Hiranyakashipu uses his club against that particular pillar, that's when Lord Narasimha comes out of that pillar. So Prahlad saw the Lord in everything, including matter. Hiranyakashipu saw matter in everything, including God. Even when the Lord comes out of the pillar, he doesn't recognize him. He's thinking, "Who's this?" So this is the difference between the consciousness of a devotee and the consciousness of a non-devotee. A non-devotee will not see Krishna in anything. It will be impossible for them to do that because their consciousness is contaminated. Whereas a devotee whose consciousness is elevated because they're always thinking about the Lord and serving the Lord, they're able to see Krishna in everything. So in chapter 7, in relation to chapter 10, we talked about Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. Sambandha means is re-establishing one's relationship with Krishna. I'm using the word re-establishing, and Prabhupada uses this word, re-establishing, because all of us are eternally related to Krishna. So it's nothing new. It's just because we have forgotten, we have to, somebody has to remind you that you have this relationship. So this relationship with Krishna gets re-established through the mercy of a Vaishnava or through the mercy of a Guru, or also through the mercy of Lord Krishna himself. So Sambandha is re-establishing your connection with Krishna. And then we said Abhideya is the process of establishing that connect. And that process is bhakti. And your ultimate goal is prayojana. Your prayojana is to achieve Krishna prema. So in this, the Bhakta, Bhagavan, and the process of bhakti is established. It's this 3-step, I wouldn't say step, 3 aspects of the process. So in this Chatushloke, which is 10.8, 9, 10, and 11, you will discover that this Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana is described by Krishna, not using this particular terminology, but in essence, he's describing it. And we will look at those 4 shlokas a little bit closely today. But if you expand your understanding of the Bhagavad Gita and the reading of the Bhagavad Gita, this same Bhagavan, Bhakti, and the Bhakta is also established in the middle section of these Bhakti Yoga chapters. So chapter 7 is about Bhagavan. Chapter 9 is about Bhakti. And when we come to chapter 12, tomorrow, it's about the Bhakta. So Bhagavan, Bhakti and Bhakta are covered by Krishna in the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So chapters 7, 9 and 12. So essentially in chapter 10, what is Lord Krishna saying? If you think I am so great, can you imagine how great, how much more powerful bhakti itself is, the process of bhakti? But I want you to know that I am great, but my bhakta who's practicing bhakti, because they are able to conquer me, they are greater than me. So essentially he's saying, can you now understand how glorious my bhaktas are? Because by practicing bhakti, they conquer me. I come under their control. So the minute the Supreme Lord comes under the control of his bhaktas, then obviously his bhaktas must be more powerful than him. Of course, the bhaktas never assume that position. But Krishna is saying that his bhaktas are greater than him. Because by practicing bhakti, they learn to subjugate the Lord. You have to remember that the bhaktas don't want to control the Lord. Their objective is not to willfully conquer Bhagavan. It's just through the natural process of love they are able to conquer Bhagavan. And therefore they enjoy that specifically sweet relationship with him. Especially in the mood of a friend or a parent or a lover. Because those 3 are considered to be the sweetest, of which Madhurya Rasa is the sweetest of the 3. So Krishna is essentially saying, if I am so great, my bhaktas are greater than me, because through the process of practicing bhakti yoga, they conquer me. And therefore, they are my opulence. So we said chapter 10 is titled Vibhuti Yoga. So this short form or acronym for this chapter is HEAR, because Krishna again talks about the importance of hearing. And then in the second shloka, he talks about how one needs his mercy in order to practice Krishna consciousness. So one cannot practice Krishna consciousness unless one has received the mercy of Krishna. And what is this process to develop the faith in Krishna? It's hearing. And that Krishna's mercy is essential. And how do we get free from sin? So there is some interesting hidden meanings. And these meanings one can only understand when we follow the Guru Parampara system. So I'll come to those shlokas in a minute. The hidden meaning that we didn't talk about earlier. So the 3 O's of bhakti our only objective is to worship Krishna. Our only objective is to practice Bhakti Yoga. And the only qualification that we need to have is our own sincerity in practicing devotional service, because Krishna's assessment of us is based on our intent, and behind our intent is our level of sincerity. So our only goal in life is Krishna. The only qualification that is required is our sincerity and devotional service. The only expectation that we have for ourselves is that we have to offer some seva to Krishna. And since we cannot offer seva to Krishna directly, he accepts our seva in the form of the deities in the temple. Therefore, offering seva to the deities becomes crucial and important, and a very important aspect of our sadhana. Chanting alone is very, very powerful, but chanting alone will not help you conquer Krishna. You have to be actively engaged in the service of Krishna. So then we talked about acceptance, where Arjuna says, yes, you have described your opulence, but I want to hear a little bit more. And we discussed that the only reason Arjuna is asking this question is for the benefit of us who may have doubts and not for himself. And you'll realize that when we come to chapter 11 today. And then Arjuna asks those critical questions, how shall I think of you and how shall I know you, in 2 of the shlokas. And in shlokas 19 to 42, Krishna actually reveals himself. 82 opulences Krishna talks about. We read those beautiful shlokas in English. So Krishna describes in these shlokas, in the 10th chapter, 82 of his opulences. So I want to come to specific shlokas and then we'll move to chapter 11. You look at the shloka 10.3. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Do you think Krishna is talking about Bhakti Yoga here? Do you think Krishna is talking about Bhakti Yoga here in Shloka 3? I want to hear you. What do you think?
There's no bhakti. Just knowing about God is just knowing about God is that's
just knowing about God. What happens? What is Krishna promising you?
is free from all sins.
Yes. So in the 3rd shloka, Krishna is not talking about bhakti. He's simply talking about the benefits of knowing that he is the Supreme Lord. Just knowing that Krishna is the Supreme Lord without ever uttering Krishna's name or doing chanting or reading the Bhagavad Gita or doing the seva or changing your diet or worshipping the Lord. What is Krishna saying? You're freed from all sins. So this is a partial benefit of knowing that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. So here, you're not getting Sukriti. Just knowing that Krishna is the Lord and accepting that Krishna is the Lord is sufficient for Krishna to wipe out your sins. But it is not Sukriti. Sukriti begins when you actively practice Bhakti Yoga. Is that clear? Shloka 3, what is Krishna saying? Just knowing me, bas, you get benefit. You don't have to worship me, you don't have to offer flower to me, no fruit, no water, no leaf. You don't have to do anything of that. Just knowing me, you get freed from all sins. So, very good. This is the partial benefit of simply knowing who is Krishna, but such a powerful benefit. Let's come to Shloka 7. Krishna says, one who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. So here Krishna is talking about Bhakti Yoga. He is describing what his bhaktas do. The minute they find out that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he's the cause of all causes, they simply surrender to him. So this is another important facet of the distinctions that one can see when you really study the shlokas in a deeper way. So the complete and full result of knowing Krishna is practicing bhakti. So the result here is your beginning of practicing Bhakti Yoga. Is that clear? The result, partial result in Shloka 3 is your sins get wiped out. Here, when you're factually convinced and you want to do something about it, you become actively engaged, and that is your reward. The reward is Krishna himself allows you to practice Bhakti Yoga. So this is the interesting distinction between Shloka 3 and Shloka 7. We'll talk about 3 levels of offenses. In different yugas, offense means or sins, I suppose. We'll interchange them just for the sake of argument today. Generally, when we talk about sins, we are talking about sins that are committed on the bodily platform and on the subtle body platform. When we use the word offenses, it means you're committing an offense against another devotee or the Lord or the deity. And an offense is considered to be far more severe from a consequences standpoint than a sin. A sin is papa, so you have to pay the price for your papa. But an offense is far more severe. The severity is that Krishna disconnects with you quickly. And that's a frightening prospect for any devotee, especially once you're convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and you're doing your best to practice Bhakti Yoga. And then you start committing offenses by finding faults with devotees or committing offenses against the holy name or the deities. Then Krishna will just cut the cord, finished, over, bas. Then you have to literally wait on the mercy of another devotee to get that bhakti back. Therefore, committing an offense is considered more severe. So let us look at what the Garuda Purana says about offenses and how it works in the different yugas. And I'll just summarize it. And so there are 3 types of offenses that we can commit. One is an offense of just thinking ill of others, or thinking or willing some harm to come to somebody else because they have hurt you. So this is one level of offense. Another level of offense is by speech. Sometimes we may speak very harsh words When we open our mouth and speak harsh words out of anger, that is another kind of sin. And then in your intelligence, you are plotting and planning to do things that can harm another person or another jivatma. That is another kind of offense. So one is actually your thoughts, your speech, and then your actions. These are the three kinds of offenses. So I'll just give you a contrast. In the Satya Yuga or in the earlier Yugas, only if you do a pious activity will you get a pious credit. Which means in the other Yugas, you have to, if you think good, but you don't do good, there's no impact there. So you actually have to engage in a pious deed to get the benefit of punya. So you cannot get punya just by thinking in the other yugas. But in the other yugas, you can accumulate papa just by thinking. Can you imagine what a dangerous position that could be? So on the one hand, in the other yugas, to accumulate punya, you need to act. But to accumulate papa is very easy because all you have to do is think. That this is how karma works in the other yugas. But in the Kali Yuga, there is a slight differentiation, and you will see that now. So in the Kali Yuga, you can think ill of somebody, but you will not suffer the consequences. Whereas in the other yugas, thinking ill of somebody itself, you will accumulate papa. But in Kali Yuga, your thoughts don't have consequences. But interestingly, in Kali Yuga, if you think good of others, and if you want good things to happen to others, you get the benefit of it as punya. So in Kali Yuga, your positive thoughts lead to positive consequences. Negative thoughts do not have negative consequences. In the context of karma we are talking about. Negative thoughts have negative consequences because then you become attached to negative thoughts and you become your own poison pill. You kill yourself slowly because you're so negative. But from a karma standpoint, thinking negative in Kali Yuga does not have consequences. Thinking positive does. In the other yugas, thinking positive has zero consequences. Thinking negative has consequences. So in Kali Yuga, until you act out on your fantasies, whether it is, especially if it is negative, it doesn't have consequences from a karma standpoint. So when we commit physical sins in this life, we are planting the seed for getting physical consequences in our next life. So the physical consequences could be you will take a different body than a human being. The physical consequences could also be if you take a human body, you may have sufferings, physical sufferings, disease, these other things. So if you've committed physical sins, it leads to physical consequences. If you commit subtle sins, it leads to subtle consequences, like mental turmoil, psychological problems. If you've committed subtle sins in your previous lives, in other yugas, in your next life, you will suffer subtle consequences. It will not be physical consequences. So physical sins lead to physical consequences, subtle sins lead to subtle consequences. For example, if you slander somebody, then in this life, somebody else will slander you and you will be at the receiving end of it. So everything is just very logical. So if you evaluate your own suffering right now, I hope none of you is suffering. But in case you are suffering and you feel like you're suffering, understand it is simply a consequences of what you've done in the past. So say, for example, it doesn't justify the other person's action. You just have to look at this in a holistic manner. If you abused somebody in the past, in your past life, you will experience that abuse in this life. So if we can just accept that we are suffering the consequences of what we have planted in the past, then it is easy to just move on and correct ourselves and move on. But if you feel that the other person has wronged you and how dare they, then you'll never be able to let go. Because you have vested power in them. They have so much power over you that you are not able to move on with your life. That is such a terrible position to put oneself in. Yes, it is hard to forgive, because a lot of things that happen to us, we consider to be unjust. That we didn't do anything that should have caused this. Yes, you didn't do anything in this life to have caused this. But understand that you've done plenty of things in your past life, which is the reason you're suffering. We said, I will tell you how the process of karma actually works. And you will learn this if you read the Nectar of Devotion. So we said the root cause of all of our problems is avidya, ignorance. And it is ignorance that causes us to desire, have the wrong desires. And therefore we said Krishna has nothing to do with your karma, because it was your material desires that got you into trouble. So the way this works is that you have these material desires. And these material desires are, it starts as a desire, as a thought. So this is called kutam. Kutam means certain inclinations you have. It doesn't matter whether it's to do good or to bad, it doesn't matter. It's just everything arises as a desire. So this is kutam. This desire then plants the seed for you to actually act out on it. So that's called bijam. So the minute you have thoughts, you are tempted to act out on those thoughts. So kutam leads to bijam. Bijam we know is seed. Kutam means sinful inclinations. So where are these inclinations coming from? They are even coming from past lives. Because you carry your subtle body into your next life, correct? Your subtle body travels with you to your next birth. So it is kutam, bhijam. Bhijam means you have actually now acted. So that bijam leads to papa and punya. And when it leads to papa and punya, what happens is that it is creating what is called a prarabdha. Prarabdha karma means what you are experiencing now. A prarabdha means you planted so much papa and punya, you will not be able to reap the benefits in this one life. It is stored. I mean, you will reap it in your next life or in much future lives. This is called a prarabdha karma. A prarabdha karma means karma that has not fructified. The problem is that this cycle keeps continuing until you have to figure out how you break this cycle. Aprarabdha karma, in your next life, because you're carrying these inclinations, you'll keep doing the same thing again and again. Whether it is positive or negative, it doesn't matter. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita The only way we can break free of this cycle is to get rid of avidya. So how do you get rid of avidya? Krishna says avidya means completely uprooting everything. So Krishna says avidya can be uprooted only if you practice bhakti yoga. So if you practice jnana yoga and dhyana yoga, you can negate sinful activities such that you go and end up in Brahma Jyotir. You can even get liberated. But even after being liberated, there is a risk. At some point, you will get tired of your liberation because you don't have any activity. And that's when you fall down. So the only way to uproot avidya is to practice bhakti yoga. So simply by chanting, simply by offering seva, simply by honoring prasadam, you are uprooting avidya. So this is why we say this Krishna consciousness has to be experienced. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj says that Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved. It is awarded. Awarded by whom? By the mercy of a pure devotee and sometimes by the mercy of Krishna himself. So Krishna consciousness, you cannot say, I will achieve it one day. I will just practice so hard, I will achieve it. Yes, one needs to practice sadhana, but that sadhana alone is not going to get you there. You need the mercy of fellow Vaishnavas for you to progress. So Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved. It is awarded to you. And then after it is awarded to you, you then practice your sadhana and everything else. Which is why the Guru's role is so important for us. So important. So when we talk about prayer today, we'll talk about one of the aspects of prayer. So let's come to the Chatushloka. We said Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So let's look at Shloka 8. So these are the three aspects of overall devotional service. So Krishna says, I am the source of all the spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So tell me, is this Sambandha, Abhideya, or Prayojana? Which of the three are covered in this shloka? Sambandha means relationship. Abhideya means the process. And Prayojana means the result, which is Krishna Prema. Which two are covered of the S, A, and P in the shloka? Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Which three are covered?
Sambandha.
Sambandha and one more.
Abhyudaya.
Yeah, Abhideya, because Krishna is saying, what do? They worship me. Worship me means the process, right? It's an activity. Abhideya means activity, correct? Bhakti yoga is that activity. Sambandha, because they know who Krishna is and therefore they've established that relationship. So Sambandha and Abhideya is covered in Shloka 8. Let's look at Shloka 9. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. And they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. S, A, or P, or all three? Or two, or just one? Shloka 9.
All three.
All three? So this is activity, right? The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. They derive great bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So he's talking about himself and his devotees. So this is actually Abhideya and Prayojana. What is their goal? Their goal is to talk about Krishna, engage each other in talking about Krishna. So there is process and there is result. What is that result? Result is here, right? Great satisfaction and bliss, correct?
Yes, Mataji.
This is Prayojana, correct? And this is Abhideya. What are they doing? They are always devoted. What are they doing? Activity? Enlightening one another, conversing about me. So in this Sambandha and Abhideya, in this Abhideya and Prayojana, what is the result that the devotees are getting as a result of performing this, practicing this activity of Krishna consciousness? They're already experiencing bliss and satisfaction. They don't have to go to Vaikuntha, Golok Vrindavan. They can be anywhere talking about Krishna and they are in bliss. Shloka 10. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Abhideya. Yes, Krishna is talking about devotional service, bhakti yoga here. So in Shloka 10, it is only Abhideya. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Again, process. Abhideya. Because the Lord is uprooting ignorance. So remember we said, only by practicing bhakti yoga, you can uproot avidya so that it breaks that cycle of karma. So these are the important, deeper significance of these messages, which if you read the Bhagavad Gita on your own, you will not know this. This is why Guru Parampara is so important in our culture. This is why our Shastras say you should not read the scriptures on your own, because you will only walk away with surface understanding, correct? You will not get a deeper understanding of the Shastra. And therefore, your taste for Shastra also will be very shallow. Your taste for scriptures will grow when you study the scriptures under the guidance of a guru. Is it not? Do you think if you had read the Bhagavad, these 4 shlokas, you would have known this on your own? No, right? Would you have known the difference between shloka 3 and 7? Just by reading this, would you have picked it up? The difference between shloka 3 and shloka 7. On our own, would we have understood the deeper significance of these shlokas? Is that possible?
No.
No. Because we don't have the intelligence. That is why we realize on self-realized souls to bring us the deeper meaning behind the Shastra. Then what happens is that it increases your interest in coming back to the Shastra. It increases your love for Shastra. It increases your taste for Shastra. Is it not? I know that is true for me. My interest in the Shastras has only grown because of my hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures and hearing from other senior devotees about these deeper meanings behind the shlokas. Because if I had read Bhagavad Gita on my own, which I never would have done anyway, I would not have appreciated the beauty of Krishna's instructions and the beauty of Krishna's messages for us. Right? So this is the process. That is why These 4 shlokas are considered the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. There is Bhagavan, there is Bhakta. Bhakta is practicing bhakti to achieve Bhagavan, to achieve Krishna Prema. Not to become Bhagavan, but to achieve Krishna Prema. So this is the summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So actually, our acharyas say the entire Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita actually begins in shloka 11 in chapter 2 and ends in shloka 11 of chapter 10. So 2.11 to 10.11 is the entire Bhagavad Gita. So then you may ask, so why is Krishna still talking for so long? What would be the answer to that question? After this 11 shloka, which is the absolute summum bonum of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking in 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So much more he is talking. Why is he talking? If our acharyas are saying, actual Bhagavad Gita begins in 2.11 and ends in 10.11. Why do we have so many more shlokas? Can anybody think about what do you think is the answer to that question? Why do you think there are so many more shlokas? Actually, the answer is in the next shloka itself. In the next few shlokas, actually. The answer to this question is, from here on out, after shloka 11 in the 10th chapter, Arjuna begins to ask questions. He'll continue to ask questions, not begins to ask questions. But when we read chapter 11 today, you'll understand. Arjuna will now ask questions, not because he doesn't know, but he will ask questions for the benefit of you and me. So the entire rest of the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna asking more and more questions for the benefit of Kali Yuga souls like you and me. Because see, in this shloka itself, Arjuna is saying, look, I have heard that you are God from others, and now you yourself are telling me you are God. He could have simply said, I'm ready to follow your instructions. Chalo, take my chariot, I'm ready. I'll pick up my bow and arrow. So if Arjuna has accepted here that Krishna is Bhagavan, then all he has to do is follow Bhagavan's instructions. Bhagavan has been telling him fight, 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 fight. But still, he doesn't. For your benefit and for my benefit, he keeps asking questions. So here he will say, please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. In response to this, Krishna talks about his 82 opulences. 82 opulences. So actual immortality means practicing Krishna consciousness. By simply thinking of Krishna all the time and how he pervades everything, everywhere. So I will conclude with the pastime and then we'll move to chapter 11. When we pray to Krishna, Krishna always will give us a favorable response. But the experience need not be pleasant. So, I will repeat again. When you pray to Krishna, he will always respond to you favorably. But that does not mean your experience will be pleasant. So for example, when you go to the doctor and you suffer from a disease, Sometimes the only way the doctor can save you is potentially through amputating your limb if you have a severe infection. So in the process of elongating your life, the process of losing your limb is not a pleasant experience. So similarly, when you pray to Krishna, he will respond to your prayer. But that doesn't mean you will have a pleasant experience all the time. You have to remember this. Because he is the doctor trying to treat you and he knows what's right for you. So Krishna's mercy and benediction may not be immediately apparent to us. We will still be complaining, Krishna, I asked you for this, but what are you doing here? You know, one other pastime comes to my mind, but I will hold it off for the Ramayana story part 2 on Sunday. So there is a story from the Puranas. So in a village, there was a very poor lady and a very wealthy rich man. This poor lady had only a cow for sustaining herself and nothing else. No wealth, nothing else. This rich man was ultra rich, very wealthy. But both of them were devotees of Lord Krishna. The poor lady was living off of a cow, and the rich man was leading a very comfortable life, but both of them were devotees of Krishna. So one day Narada Muni sees both of them and he says, Areva, both of them are such wonderful devotees. The very poor lady and the very rich man, both of them are beautiful, wonderful devotees of Krishna. So he thinks, let me see how I can help both of them. So he goes to Narayana and he tells Narayana, you know, can you bless both of them? They are such wonderful devotees. I have visited them. I have seen them. And Lord Narayana says, okay, I will benedict them. So what does Narayana do? The cow that this old lady had, which was her only source of food and living, Krishna takes away her cow. And this rich man, Krishna makes him even more rich than what he already has in terms of wealth. So Narada Muni goes to visit them and he's puzzled. I asked my Lord to benedict both of them. And what has my Lord done? He has taken away the cow from the old lady. That was her only thing that she had. And what has he done to the rich man? He already has all the wealth and resources. He doesn't need any more. But my Lord has given him even more wealth. So he goes back to Narayana because he's like, what is this? I asked both of them to be benedicted, but this cannot be considered benediction. This is so unfair, Krishna. So he goes back to Lord Narayana and he asks, my dear Lord, this was my prayer, but it doesn't look like the intent of my prayer was addressed here for these two personalities. And Lord Krishna responds to Narada Muni and he says, my dear Narada, you asked me to benedict both of them. This old lady, who's a nice devotee of mine, the only thing remaining between her and me was this cow. Therefore, I took away the cow so that she becomes fully dependent on me. So Narada Muni says, Acha. But what about the rich man? Why did you give him more riches? What was the purpose? And Krishna says, because this devotee of mine understood how he needs to use the wealth in my service, and he's been using the wealth in my service, and he's been doing it so nicely. I gave him more wealth so that he can use that wealth also in my service. And eventually he will also come back to me because he's still serving. So you see how Krishna's thought process works. When you pray to him, be surprised. You may not get what you really wanted, but Krishna knows what you really need. And therefore, being the doctor, he may be doing precision surgery, but you are complaining that he's doing surgery. He is actually doing that to protect you, to save you. So this is why the Lord is so mystical. We cannot understand his potency. We cannot understand and comprehend how the Lord works in our lives. And this is the beauty of our relationship with him. As long as this is the difference between the pure devotees and us. Pure devotees fully understand that whatever happens in their life, it is Krishna's mercy. If a good thing happens, they consider that Krishna's blessing. If a quote unquote bad thing happens, they consider that also to be Krishna's mercy. Srila Prabhupada said, I could not have started ISKCON. I could not have executed my spiritual master's instructions if Krishna had not crushed my business. Prabhupada was a chemist. He had his own pharmacy. And in the initial days, the pharmacy was doing really well. And Prabhupada was a grahastha at that time. But over a period of time, the business collapsed. He got into some legal problems because of some things that his employees did. Finally, he realized Krishna has taken away everything one by one, including one day he leaves his wife behind and he says, I now need to focus on executing my spiritual master's instructions. So Srila Prabhupada has said, had Krishna not taken everything away from me, I would not have ever started this movement. Because Krishna removed all the obstacles in my path, because in my mind, I was attached to fulfilling my Guru's instructions. The only thing stopping me from fulfilling my Guru's instructions was my business and my family. So both Krishna figured out how to take it out from the equation so that I could completely focus on fulfilling my spiritual master's instructions. This is how you know what is the difference between a pure devotee and just a neophyte devotee like you and me. A pure devotee, Krishna will really test before he gives them what they actually desire, which is Krishna Prema. So this is the mystical nature of the Lord. So coming to chapter 11, before we begin, let's offer our obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Srila Prabhupada suffered a lot. Even after setting up ISKCON, he went through tremendous challenges at the age of 70. And we'll discover that when we watch the movie on Srila Prabhupada, what all Prabhupada went through to set up this organization so that you and I could get connected to Krishna. So today's chapter, chapter 11, is called Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. It's a little lengthy chapter. It has 55 shlokas. So here Arjuna will ask the Lord to show his universal form, and the Lord will show his forms in 3 different aspects, and we will discover what those 3 different aspects are. So the single word summary for today's chapter is form. And because it is form, the acronym for today's chapter is Rupa, R-U-P-A. Because Arjuna begins with a request, Krishna shows him the universal form, after which Arjuna offers prayers, and then Krishna shows the final aspect of the 3 forms. So we will not have time to go over all the shlokas today. I will request you to read them, but we will at least look at how the chapter begins. So here we go. The universal form. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. So Arjuna is saying, my dear Krishna, after hearing all of your responses to the questions that I have posed to you, my ignorance has been wiped out. My illusion is gone. I have heard you attentively. You have spoken about great confidential matters. I am now convinced that what you have spoken is the truth. So at this point, you would think Arjuna would say, I am now ready to act. But as we said, from here on out, Arjuna is going to ask questions for your and my benefit. So this is the yoga of the vision of the universal form. In chapter 10, Krishna has explained how he is behind all these manifestations in the material world, how Arjuna can see Krishna in everything in the material world. And now Arjuna will say, O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity and have realized your inexhaustible glories. So Arjuna is saying, I have heard about the Jivatmas, I have heard about Ishvara. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. So Arjuna is saying, so far I have heard the audio version of who you are. You've described to me the entire material cosmos. You've described to me how you pervade everything in this universe. You've described to me how you are part of every single atom in this universe. I've heard these descriptions very carefully. I have heard about this cosmic manifestation, but I now want a video version of this. So hence Arjuna asks, can you show me this cosmic manifestation? Because you have told me in detail that you're the source of everything, that nothing functions or moves without your permission. Can you show me what this means? So Arjuna is saying, audio version theek hai, but I want visual version now. So now Arjuna says, I want to see you. Now you may think, why is Arjuna asking? Why is he not seeing Krishna? Krishna is there right in front of him. So why does he need to see this cosmic manifestation? He's seeing Bhagavan. He's been interacting with Bhagavan. What's wrong with Arjuna? Why is he saying, I want to see a video version of you? No. He's saying, I want to see the video version of your cosmic form. the one that pervades the entire universe. And look at now how Arjuna's mood has changed, right? He has said, my illusion has disappeared. Up until now, he was asking questions, but why this, why that, etc. Now that Arjuna is saying, everything is clarified for me, I am clear. You can see the mood of Arjuna changing. With utter humility, he asks here, if you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. So what is Arjuna doing here? He's telling Krishna, this is my desire, but I will leave it up to you whether you want to fulfill this desire or not. And I will leave it to you to even think whether I'm qualified to have this desire or not. So you see the mood change now in Arjuna after he said, my illusion is gone. He's now come to the platform of humility. So from a platform of humility, Arjuna is asking, if you think I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then you kindly show me that unlimited universal self. So this sets the stage for chapter 11. So please repeat the shloka after me. Evam etad yatha tattvam.
Evam etad yatha
Tattvam
Atmanam parameshvara.
Atmanam Parameshvara
Drashtum ichchami te rupam.
Drashtum
Ichchami te rupam
Aishwaram Purushottama.
Aishwaram
Purushottama.
Aishwaram means opulence. Purushottama, show me your Purusha form. So this is what Arjuna is asking. Your universal form. So what is Arjuna's state of mind? The illusion is over. He has accepted that this is the Supreme Lord. He is completely satisfied. But for your benefit and my benefit, he is going to ask for further things from a clarification standpoint. But he has now come to the platform of humility. He is not telling the Lord, he is not complaining to the Lord anymore. He's saying, if you think I am fit to see your universal form, then you can kindly show it to me. So the universal form is now going to be described from shlokas 5 to 34. But what is interesting is that Krishna says to see this universal form, you need my mercy. You need my benediction. You need special vision to see this universal form. Again, there is a deeper meaning behind this universal form. We'll come to that either today or tomorrow. So there are three personalities that are going to describe what they see. Sanjaya is going to describe what he is seeing. Sanjaya is doing live telecast, remote live telecast. So sitting in the palace, he is able to see Krishna's universal form. And he describes the Lord's universal form. Then Arjuna describes what he's seeing. Krishna also describes his universal form. And then after Arjuna has seen the universal form, Arjuna asks him, actually, I don't know who you are. Who are you and why have you come here? Arjuna will ask. At that time, in response to Arjuna's two questions, who are you? Why have you come? Again, remember, Arjuna already got the answers in chapter 4. But after seeing the universal form, Arjuna experiences such fear and such distress. He becomes perturbed. So out of that feeling of fear, he asked Krishna, actually, who are you? And why have you come? So in response to that question, Krishna will instruct Arjuna. Very brief instruction Krishna gives Arjuna, we will discuss that. So first, Krishna describes his universal form. Even before showing it to Arjuna, he will tell Arjuna, this is what you're about to see. I am warning you. So because Arjuna has asked to see this visual form, Krishna will tell him ahead of time, I am giving you heads up, warning, this is what you're going to see. So even before the Lord shows his universal form, he describes his universal form. Oh Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. I was explaining a few classes ago that this cosmic form is not real. In the sense, it is not an expansion of the Lord. It is not an avatar of the Lord. It is simply a visual representation for Arjuna that the Lord is the master of everything. He is the creator of everything. So here Krishna says everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. And Krishna says, but to see this vision of mine, you need to have special eyes to see this. So let's look at that particular shloka. So Krishna is describing himself, this cosmic form, The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied, divine and multicolored forms. O best of the Bharata, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Ashwini Kumaras and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before. And then Krishna says, oh Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. So Krishna is describing his cosmic form without having shown it yet to Arjuna. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. Then Krishna says, but you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. And then Sanjaya describes what he sees. Sanjaya said, O king, having spoken thus, the Supreme Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna. Arjuna saw in that universal, here now Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, this is what Arjuna is seeing. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, and all expanding, which means Sanjaya is saying this form that I am seeing, that Arjuna is seeing, seems to have everything in it. It is brilliant, it is unlimited. But the most important thing he's saying is it's just ever expanding. I can't figure out where is the end, where is the beginning, where is the middle, because it's just constantly expanding. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once into the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. So Sanjaya is saying, it's like thousands and thousands of suns. That's what I am seeing. It is so bright. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands, which means there are trillions of universes and galaxies But Arjuna was able to see all of them in one place. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. So now Arjuna will begin to describe what he's seeing. Arjuna said, "My dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and the various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva, and all the sages and divine serpents. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, expanded everywhere, without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence, spreading on all sides like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible, and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion. You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed. So Arjuna is saying, when the Lord reveals his cosmic form, it is seen all the way in Brahmaloka by Lord Brahma, and it is seen all the way in Patala Loka by those who are living way down. So this cosmic form was so huge, it started creating disturbances and fear in all the Jivatmas in all the universes. It created fear. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings, crying, all peace, Jaya, 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 they are saying, are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns. All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, the Vishvadevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Ashuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder. So Arjuna is saying everybody is just stunned looking at this form of yours. O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form, with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. And as they are disturbed, so am I. So Arjuna is now saying, I am frightened looking at this. The Devatas are frightened. The Rishis are frightened. You have frightened everybody by showing this form. I am also frightened. And now Arjuna is going to describe what is actually frightening. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance. Seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth, in all directions I am bewildered. This is the fearful part. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also. Our chief soldiers means even on the Pandavas side, are rushing into your fearful mouths, meaning death. So Arjuna is seeing beforehand what is going to happen. The Lord is showing him, I have killed already all these people. And some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. As the many waves of rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouth. So Arjuna is seeing that all the warriors on the battlefield are just rushing into Krishna's mouths, into this cosmic form's mouth. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. So helplessly the moths are attracted to anything that is bright. And in that process, they end up giving their bodies. So here Arjuna is saying, these people are entering your mouth like as if like they are moths. Oh Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths. Covering all the universe with your effulgence, you are manifest with terrible, scorching rays. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. So Arjuna is so disturbed. He's forgotten the two-handed form of Krishna. He's looking at this cosmic form and saying, who are you? And he's so afraid, he's offering pranams again and again to this cosmic form. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. So essentially, Arjuna is asking, who are you? Why have you come here? And Arjuna, Lord Krishna responds in 2 shlokas. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds. And I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. So Krishna is categorically telling Arjuna, outside of how many people? 7 people or 8 people that survived this war? 63 crore people I have killed, Arjuna. That's what Krishna is saying here. And then Krishna gives an instruction to Arjuna. Therefore, get up. Prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. And you, O Saci, can be but an instrument in the fight. So can you imagine how insulting it must be for a great warrior like Arjuna to hear the Lord saying, Arey, I have already killed them. So Krishna uses the word Saci. The word Saci means somebody who's so glorious as a warrior that he can fight with both hands. He can use the bow and arrow, any other implement with both hands. So it is said that Arjuna was such a fantastic warrior. He could do this. So Krishna is glorifying Arjuna in this shloka. He is calling him, you are a great warrior. Yes, I'm telling you, I've already killed all these people. But I want you to know, I think you're a great warrior. And what is Krishna instructing Arjuna? Just be an instrument. I have already made this decision. What you need to do is follow through, become an instrument in the fight. So Krishna has said, I have come here to destroy. When Arjuna asks, who are you? Krishna doesn't say, I am Bhagavan. Krishna is saying, I am death. Time I am. I have come here to kill. So get up and fight. The only thing you have to do is become an instrument in my hands. Because when Krishna comes to make his decisions, he is using other agents to enact what needs to happen as per karma. So then Krishna says, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. After hearing this, Arjuna begins to offer prayers because he's trembling. By now, he's just shocked when Krishna says, I've come here to kill. I've already made the decision. Actually, Krishna says, I've already killed them. You just have to become the instrument of that death. So, we will skip some of the shlokas because we've already run over time. So this is Sanjaya describing Lord Krishna. Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhaved Yugapad Uttita Yadibha Sadrishi Sasyat Bhasas Tasya Mahatmanaha. Then Arjuna's description of the universal form, we read all of that, where he says, I see you with so many arms, legs, bellies, mouths, eyes. You seem to be everywhere. There's no limit. I can't figure out where you start, where you begin, where you end. Where is your center? Because he was just, the entire sky was occupied with the cosmic form. So Krishna will say, this Rupa that you have seen, nobody else has seen before. And then immediately we'll have doubt. Wait a minute. Didn't Krishna show this form to Mother Yashoda? Didn't Krishna show this form when he went for one last time to the Kauravas to try to get them to avoid this battle? Again, we have to rely on Guru Parampara to understand what is the difference. So Krishna actually says here in one of the shlokas, we'll not go over the prayers, I'll come to the prayers in a minute. So this is Arjuna glorifying the Lord. Many, many shlokas. These are all prayers of Arjuna actually. Okay, so here Krishna will say, you have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. So Krishna is saying his cosmic manifestation is a horrible thing to see. Now let it be finished. Okay, the video, I will shut it off. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. So then the Lord will reveal his four-handed Narayana form. And then the Lord will reveal his two-handed form. Which is with the flute. Then Arjuna, so here Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear. The form that you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am standing before you and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way you can enter into the mysteries of my understanding. And this is the last shloka. My dear Arjuna, again Krishna will come back to bhakti and his bhaktas. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation. He who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So this we covered, time I am. Krishna is predicting what is going to happen. I will go a little bit deeper into a couple of shlokas tomorrow when we do a summary review. We don't have time today. And we'll also talk about the prayer tomorrow, the importance of prayer and how to actually pray. So Krishna says, that's it, just become my instrument. You don't have any other business. You have to perform your duty. And as you perform your duty, I am using you to kill all these people on the battlefield because I have already killed them. So this prayers, Arjuna will begin by glorifying Krishna and offering him obeisances. Actually, all of this is glorification only from 35 to 40. And then Arjuna will apologize to Krishna saying, look, all this time I was acting like a friend. I had forgotten that you are Bhagavan. Please accept my apology. I called you. I was so familiar with you. And then finally he makes his request. What is his request? I can't bear this sight anymore. Shut it down. And because I'm so perturbed, can you show me your four-handed form? And then can you show me your original two-handed form? So Krishna fulfills both of those desires also, as well. So he shows his cosmic form, he shows his four-handed Narayana form, and then he shows Arjuna his two-handed form again. So here is Arjuna begging forgiveness. So he says, thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you as, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. So imagine, somebody is your best friend. They never really reveal to you what their original identity. And one day you find out they are the richest person in the world. Suddenly your mood will change, towards them. It's like they've hidden their real form from you. And here Arjuna is saying, look, I was very familiar with you. I didn't realize that you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm sorry for whatever I've done in the past. So Arjuna is saying, I may have called you names. I may have, asked you to do this or do that for me. Can you please forgive me? Because now I'm recognizing that you're the Supreme Lord. And he says, please forgive me for those offenses. Because I have dealt with you in a very familiar way. So this is a mood of a devotee, always begging forgiveness from the Lord. So human like two-handed form, Manusham Rupam, then the most beautiful Saumya Vapuhu, which is the four-handed form, and which is very difficult to see, Sudhu Darsham. So Krishna ends by saying, which is very interesting, but I will cover it tomorrow. Krishna ends by saying, those who can see this cosmic form of mine, it's very rare. Those who are able to see my form as Vishnu or Narayana, that is even more rare. Those who see me as this two-handed Shyama Sundara, it is rarest. Now, if you read this chapter, you will think it's the exact opposite. You will think, after having read this chapter, oh, seeing the cosmic form must be very, 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 very rare. But Krishna is actually meaning the reverse. So he is saying, seeing this universal form of mine is rare. Seeing this four-handed form of me as Vishnu or Lord Narayana is even more rare. But I don't show that form very easily. But then seeing me as Krishna with the flute in the hand is rarest. Not many people see me like this. So of the three forms, seeing Krishna in his original form as Sri Bhagavan, Krishna says, is the rarest. He doesn't give that benediction to everybody. So he says, Sudhurdarsham. Extremely rare. Durdarsham itself means very rare. Sudurdarsham means even more rare, which means very difficult to see Krishna in his original form. Krishna doesn't reveal himself very easily. So after Arjuna sees Krishna in this form, he says, "O Janardana, seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful. See, the cosmic form is scary. The four-handed form is also very beautiful, but still Krishna is holding Gada and Chakra in his hands. But when you see Krishna with the flute, there is no armaments in his hands." So Arjuna says, "Okay, you're so beautiful. I am now composed in my mind. I am restored to my original nature. I am not afraid anymore. So I feel good now. I am seeing you in your original form." So this is how this chapter ends, with Krishna again talking about the glorious position of his devotees practicing Bhakti Yoga. So the last shloka is, "My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation." So Krishna himself is saying, don't follow karma kanda because it is contaminating. Don't try to become a philosophical speculator. That is also contaminating, which means jnana yoga. So, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me is bhakta. Who makes me the supreme goal of his life, again his bhakta. And who is friendly to every living being, which means he doesn't see any difference in any of the jivatmas, moving, non-moving. He certainly comes to me. So we'll stop here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam